Have you ever truly stopped to wonder what it means for a man to walk through life alone? Not because fate abandoned him, not because he stumbled or was left behind, but because he consciously chose this path? In a world that relentlessly tells us happiness is found only in romance. That fulfillment exists solely in companionship, and that solitude is a weakness to fear or avoid. There exists a different kind of man. This is the man who does not view being alone as a punishment, but as a sanctuary. He doesn't drift through life waiting for someone to complete him, nor does he measure his worth by the presence of others. Instead, he stands firm, whole within himself, a pillar of quiet strength. While society equates solitude with loneliness or deficiency, he redefines it as power. When others chase approval, accolades, or validation, he seeks mastery of his mind, his emotions, his discipline. Throughout history, the most profound thinkers, warriors, and sages, men like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, chose silence over noise, solitude over crowds, not out of bitterness, resentment, or fear, but out of wisdom. They understood a truth the world often forgets. True freedom is born from self-reliance, and real peace is cultivated within the soul, not borrowed from another. Solitude, they knew, is not emptiness. It is a canvas upon which the mind can paint its greatest insights, a forge where character is tempered. This, however, is not a rejection of love, intimacy, or connection. It is not a manifesto against companionship. Rather, it is a call to first stand firmly on your own 2 feet before leaning on another. To craft a foundation of strength so resilient that no loss, no heartbreak, no moment of loneliness, and no rejection can ever shake it. If you have ever felt out of step for choosing independence, if you've questioned whether walking alone means missing out, or if you simply want to understand the extraordinary power that lies within solitude, then stay with me. Today, we will explore 7 profound truths about the man who faces life alone, and why he might be stronger, freer, and more at peace than the world dares to admit. First, he embraces solitude as a source of strength. Most people fear being alone. They treat solitude like a shadow lurking just behind them, something to escape or fill with distraction. Their days become crowded with appointments, their ears drowned in noise, their lives bursting with the presence of others, not because they are seeking meaningful connection, but because silence terrifies them. But the man who walks alone by choice is different. He doesn't merely tolerate solitude, he welcomes it. He doesn't fidget in silence or grow restless. He sits in silence and grows stronger. He knows what many forget. Solitude is not the absence of life, but the presence of everything that truly matters. In those quiet moments, there are no masks to wear, no one to impress, no performances, no posturing, no pretending. There is only him and the unfiltered, raw truth of who he is. Most people shy away from this confrontation with themselves. He leans into it, and as he does, he uncovers a strength that the noise of the world could never give him, a calm, unshakable center that allows him to move through life with clarity and purpose. But this is only the beginning. The journey of understanding the power of walking alone reveals even deeper truths, ones that many never experience. And we are just about to uncover the next revelation. The man who embraces solitude fully confronts the raw, unfiltered truth of who he is. Most people shy away from this kind of honesty. They fear what they might discover if left alone with their own thoughts. So they keep themselves endlessly busy, filling every hour, every minute, with distractions, appointments, or meaningless chatter, all to avoid facing the deeper, unsettling questions. Who am I when no one is watching? What do I truly believe when the crowd goes silent? What do I value when no one is influencing me? But this man, he chooses differently. He steps into the silence with courage, and instead of feeling lost or empty, he finds clarity. Where others feel weakness, he discovers strength. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and one of the greatest minds of Stoicism, once wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." That is not mere poetry, it is instruction. In a world filled with noise, the man who knows how to withdraw inward becomes invincible. While the rest of the world obsesses over likes, approval, and constant chatter, he is sharpening his mind, clarifying his purpose, and refining his thoughts like a blade being honed to perfection. Here is something most people fail to realize. True solitude is not about being physically alone. It is a state of mind. You could be isolated in a remote cabin in the mountains, yet still consumed by the digital noise of the world. Conversely, you could be standing in the middle of a bustling city, surrounded by thousands, and feel an extraordinary sense of inner calm. The man who truly embraces solitude does not need to vanish from the world. He simply disconnects from everything that does not serve him. He does not fear missing out, because he understands what he gains in return: time to reflect, space to grow, and the clarity to know exactly who he is and what truly matters. That clarity becomes his guiding compass. He does not chase after people or fill his life with distractions. He does not leap into shallow relationships merely to avoid being alone. Instead, he wields solitude as a warrior wields a finely balanced blade, deliberately, intentionally, and with precision. He meditates, he reads, he journals, he trains, he constructs an inner world so rich, so steady, that no external storm can ever shake it. And here lies the paradox. The man most comfortable in solitude is also the man best prepared to face the world. Why? Because he has confronted his own shadows, conquered boredom, insecurity, and fear, not by running from them, but by meeting them head-on. So when others flee from silence, he runs toward it. In that stillness, he sharpens his edge, discovers his wisdom, and cultivates his peace. Solitude, for him, is not loneliness, it is sacred. It is the space where a man sheds the expectations of the world and becomes fully himself. And when he returns from this inward retreat, he is not fragile, he is focused, he is formidable. Next, he masters the art of self-sufficiency. There is a quiet, unshakable power in the man who needs no one. The man who masters the art of self-sufficiency discovers a strength that is both subtle and unshakable. There is a profound kind of power in a man who needs no one, not because he has shut himself off from the world, nor because he is bitter or heartless, but because, through time, challenges, and life's lessons, he has learned to rely on no one but himself. In a world built on dependency, emotional, financial, and even digital, the man who lives alone, without a partner or constant companionship, is often misjudged. Society labels him as incomplete. People wonder, what's wrong with him? But perhaps they are asking the wrong question. The real question might be, what has he gained by choosing this path? Self-sufficiency is far more than doing your own laundry or cooking your own meals. It is about taking full ownership of your life. It is about standing in front of a mirror and recognizing that everything begins and ends with you. When there is no one to split bills with, you learn to manage money with precision. When there is no one to lean on emotionally, you become your own refuge. When no one reminds you of the small things, appointments, chores, responsibilities, you develop sharpness, awareness, and accountability. You become self-led, disciplined, and intentional. At first, this can feel overwhelming. There is no backup plan, no safety net, no one to call for help. Yet over time, that initial discomfort gives birth to quiet competence. Fixing a leaking faucet, planning meals, navigating career moves. These tasks transform from burdens into acts of personal pride. Because no one is coming to save you. When you embrace this, you stop waiting for others. You begin building for yourself. This is not mere survival. This is mastery. The ancient Stoic philosopher Seneca once said, "Who is content with the least is the richest." For contentment lies not in luxury, but in self-sufficiency. This quote goes straight to the heart of the matter. A man who learns to stand alone, who does not crave validation, and who does not outsource his peace of mind is truly rich, not because he owns much, but because he needs little. Think about how many people panic at the thought of being alone. They rush into relationships just to fill silence. They scroll endlessly through their devices just to avoid facing their own thoughts. But the man who lives alone does not flee from silence. He walks straight into it, learning to listen to what others are too afraid to face, the voice of his own mind. He becomes both provider and protector for himself, an unshakable anchor in life's storms. He is not emotionally volatile. He is not financially dependent. He is grounded in the one person he knows he can truly rely on, himself. And here lies the paradox. The man who needs nothing is the one most prepared to give everything. He gives from a place of abundance, not lack. He enters relationships not because he is empty and desperate to be filled, but because he is whole and ready to share his strength with others. He shares from fullness, not from emptiness. True self-sufficiency is not isolation. It is not coldness or detachment. On the contrary, it forms the foundation of all enduring strength. When a man has mastered this, he becomes unshakable. He may walk alone, yet he is never weak. He moves through life with steady, quiet confidence, because he knows he can stand firmly on his own. Third, he experiences true freedom. In today's world, everyone talks about freedom, but how many actually live it? People claim they're free, yet they are chained by debt, obligations, and social pressures. They call themselves independent, yet their moods fluctuate with the emotions of their partner. They say they live life on their own terms, yet most decisions are filtered through fear of judgment, rejection, or societal expectation. True freedom is not doing whatever you want. Freedom is not being owned by circumstances, by others, or even by your own impulses. This is a lesson the man who walks alone understands better than anyone. When you choose solitude, when you strip away dependencies, emotional obligations, and financial entanglements, you begin to taste something rare in society: pure, unfiltered autonomy. He doesn't need permission to follow his path. He doesn't need to explain why he moved cities, changed careers, or skipped that party. He doesn't spend money to impress. He doesn't compromise his goals for comfort, recognition, or approval. Each morning, he wakes with a clear understanding: my time is mine, my energy is mine, my choices are mine. That is freedom. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once said, Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. The man who lives alone comes to see this truth clearly, free from the silent pressure of relationship expenses, constant spending on dates, gifts, or vacations. He finds financial freedom, but more importantly, he discovers mental freedom. He no longer chases after anyone. He doesn't live to meet expectations that were never truly his. He is not bound by the narrative that a man must be married by 30, own a house by 35, and post family photos to prove happiness. No, he defines success on his own terms. And that terrifies people, because most do not truly want freedom. They want safety, wrapped in the illusion of control. But this man, he chooses the uncertainty of self-direction over the comfort of conformity. He knows that living free sometimes means walking alone. And he also knows that no one is coming to save him, and that is precisely what makes him powerful. He does not compromise his ambitions for approval. He does not shrink to fit into someone else's story. He is not burdened by the emotional volatility of a partner who has not done their inner work. He stands firm in the strength of himself, and that is his ultimate freedom. Instead, he protects his time like a warrior guarding a fortress, because he knows it is the one resource he can never get back. And within that protected space, in the silence, the stillness, and the sovereignty, he builds. He builds his finances, his health, his skills, and ultimately the life he wants to live, brick by brick, without needing to apologize to anyone. Some may call this selfish, but that's only because they don't understand that true freedom is not rebellion, it is responsibility. It's not about avoiding commitment. It's about refusing to commit to anything that compromises your truth. This kind of freedom doesn't come from defiance, but from discipline, clarity, and the conscious choice each day to remain true to yourself, even when the world tries to pull you in 1,000 directions. While others are shackled by the invisible chains of society, this man moves lightly, with focus and freedom, not because he has nothing to lose, but because he has already chosen what truly matters and let go of everything else. That is the power of a man who walks alone. That is the true meaning of freedom. Fourth, he cultivates a deeper sense of purpose. Most people drift through life without direction, carried by routine, peer pressure, or the illusions of success sold to them by others. They wake, work, scroll, sleep, and call it living. They chase after relationships, parties, promotions, and possessions, not because these things bring meaning, but because they distract from the aching void of not knowing why they exist. The man who walks alone cannot run from that question. He has no noise to drown it out, no constant companionship to numb the existential ache. And so, in the quiet of solitude, he confronts it. What am I here for? It is the most dangerous and powerful question a man can ask, and unlike the masses, he does not flinch. He leans in, without a partner, without constant validation, without external distractions. Life becomes a mirror. It shows him everything he is, and everything he isn't. It exposes the gaps in his character, the buried dreams, the untapped potential. And while this can be painful at first, it is also where purpose begins. Because when no one else is around, there is only you, and what you choose to build with your time, energy, and breath. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." This is not abstract philosophy. It is a blueprint for men who want to live intentionally. The man who embraces solitude follows it rigorously. He does not ask the world who he should be. He decides. He defines what honor, strength, discipline, creativity, and peace mean for himself. And each day, he relentlessly shapes himself into that vision. This is the difference between merely existing and truly becoming. While others lose themselves in shallow relationships or endless socializing, he turns inward. He reflects, journals, reads, and trains his body with discipline. He sharpens his mind like a weapon. He pours himself into a craft, a mission, a path, something larger than ego, deeper than emotion, and more enduring than fleeting pleasure. He does not need someone else to give his life meaning, because he has already done it for himself, building on the clarity and freedom he has cultivated in solitude. He channels that focus into shaping every aspect of his life. He reads, devours knowledge, and trains his body with unwavering discipline. Every morning, he wakes with purpose, each motion deliberate, each action intentional. His mind, honed like a finely sharpened blade, is prepared for strategy, reflection, and creative problem-solving. He does not waste his energy on trivial distractions or fleeting pleasures. Instead, he immerses himself in his craft, in a mission, in a path that transcends ego, goes deeper than raw emotion, and endures far beyond temporary gratification. He does not need someone else to assign meaning to his life because he has done the difficult work of generating that meaning from within. Purpose is not something stumbled upon, it is something sculpted painstakingly, carved from raw determination and relentless introspection. And solitude? It provides the essential tools: time, focus, clarity, silence, and the space to hear one's own voice amidst a world that constantly shouts for conformity, for imitation, for surrender to external expectations. Herein lies a profound paradox. The man who dedicates himself to building his character and vision in solitude becomes the figure others naturally turn to for guidance. His influence is not forced. It does not rely on preaching or superficial advice. He inspires simply by living authentically, with intention and direction. He is neither distracted nor aimless. He refuses to squander his potential chasing ephemeral pleasures or hollow validations. Each day, he rises with a mission, and that sense of mission permeates every domain of his life, his work, his health, his discipline, his relationships. Purpose becomes his armor, shielding him in a world that thrives on chaos and emotional turbulence. Trends sway him not, rejection weakens him not, and fleeting setbacks shake him not. For a man grounded in purpose, focus becomes an almost dangerous power, an unwavering force that propels him forward, while others remain uncertain, endlessly questioning, "What should I do with my life?" He already knows. Solitude did not break him, it refined him. In the silence, he discovered not emptiness, but clarity, not confusion, but direction. And it is in that clarity that he begins to navigate life with precision and confidence, moving with intent while the world around him drifts in reactive chaos. Fifth, he develops emotional mastery and inner peace, a rare strength found only in those who refuse to let their emotions dictate their course. He experiences emotions fully. He is human, after all, yet unlike the majority, he does not obey them blindly. Anger does not control his speech. Fear does not dictate his choices. And loneliness does not trick him into seeking comfort from the wrong sources. Why? Because he has learned the ancient art of emotional discipline, not from books, not from therapy sessions, but forged in the crucible of solitude. When a man lives alone, without the comfort of a partner to reassure him, without someone constantly present to vent to, lean on, or distract him. He is compelled to confront the storm of his own emotions. There is no buffer, no external soothing voice whispering, "It's okay." When he spirals, it is just him, face to face with the turbulence within. From this, he learns not to suppress, but to observe, not to numb, but to understand. He realizes that emotions are like weather. They rise, they fall, and they are never permanent. He observes anxiety swell without allowing it to consume him. He acknowledges the pull of anger, but rather than exploding outward, he sits with it, examining its roots. He notices sadness creeping in, yet does not drown. He breathes through it, letting it pass like clouds across the sky. Through this process, he discovers a profound truth. Mastery of one's inner world is more powerful than control over external events. As Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." When you understand this, you realize that true strength is internal, cultivated quietly through discipline, reflection, and courage in the face of life's storms. This man's life becomes a testament to the transformative potential of solitude. He does not seek meaning externally because he has constructed it with his own hands. Each day, he nurtures his mind, body, and spirit, building resilience brick by brick. He journals, he reflects, he studies, he hones his skills. His energy is invested in endeavors larger than himself, projects and passions that are deeper than fleeting desires and more enduring than temporary pleasure. He does not depend on others to validate his existence, for he has learned that life's significance is self-created, self-sustained, and fiercely personal. In solitude, he becomes acutely aware of the fragility and impermanence of the emotional highs and lows that dominate so many lives. He watches fear, envy, and desire arise, yet does not cling. He acknowledges anger and disappointment, yet does not react impulsively. He allows himself to feel fully, but he maintains the equilibrium to act wisely. His life is a careful dance between emotion and reason, a balance struck not by avoidance but by confrontation and understanding. This is the power of a man who walks alone, not in isolation from the world, but in command of his own inner universe. While the masses chase fleeting validation, empty distractions, and shallow comforts, he invests in permanence, character, discipline, purpose, and mastery. His is a life of depth, intentionality, and unwavering direction, and in that mastery, he discovers a peace and power that the distracted, the dependent, and the untrained can never comprehend. Continuing from the inner strength he found in solitude, he realizes that controlling his mind is the key to every other form of power. As Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." This is not just a quote for the man who walks alone. It becomes a law of life. When he masters his inner world, the outer world loses its hold over him. Let's be honest, most people aren't emotionally unstable because they are weak. They are unstable because they have never had to carry the weight of their own emotions. They rely too much on others to comfort, to reassure, to validate them. But what happens when those people leave? They fall apart. Not this man. He doesn't need anyone else to regulate his mood. He doesn't spiral when his messages go unanswered. He doesn't need constant emotional attention from others. Instead, he builds his own tools: meditation, journaling, self-reflection, physical training. He sits in silence and names what he feels without judgment. He is never ashamed of having emotions, but he never lets them take control of his actions. And it is this that creates a quiet yet powerful peace within him. He is not emotionless. He is the true master of his emotions. When you meet him, you will notice it. He doesn't overreact. He speaks slowly, thoughtfully. He pauses before anger can rise. He smiles without needing a reason, because his peace does not depend on the room, the mood, or the people around him. It comes from somewhere deep within. This ability to control himself does not make him cold, on the contrary. It makes him trustworthy, a man who does not break under pressure, who does not lash out when challenged, who does not collapse when rejected, is a man you can rely on. In relationships, he does not lose himself. In adversity, he does not run. In silence, he does not crumble. He has built himself to endure both the highs and the lows, not by luck, but by choice. Because in solitude, he had to become the one person he could always trust. And now, he carries that peace wherever he goes. Emotional control is not about locking emotions away. It is about having the wisdom to choose your response instead of reacting impulsively. It is understanding that peace is your responsibility, not someone else's duty to give you. The man who has learned to calm the storm within is the man who cannot be broken from the outside. He is the still lake in a world full of crashing waves. And that is the mark of a Stoic man. He becomes a true Stoic, unshaken by external circumstances. There is a rare kind of man who walks through fire without blinking, who watches the world around him fall into chaos and yet remains still. Not because he is numb, not because he is cold, but because he has cultivated something the modern world can neither understand nor shake: inner stability. This is the final gift of the man who chooses to walk alone. When you strip away all the noise, the expectations, the relationships that once served as mirrors or masks, you are left with one thing: a man standing face to face with himself. He does not run from reality, does not seek validation from the outside, and does not allow anyone or anything to dilute his identity. Everything he does, every choice, every feeling, is deliberate and intentional. That is true strength, a strength that does not need to be proven, but simply exists, steady and still, in the midst of a chaotic world. And then, when every layer has been stripped away, when the noise of the outside world has faded, you are left with a single man, standing face to face with himself. In that stillness, something ancient awakens, a Stoic strength. You see, most people live in a state of reaction. They react to bad news, to social pressure, to disappointment, to praise, to rejection. They are swept away by the emotions of others, by the chaos of the world. Their peace depends on circumstances. Their self-worth is fragile, and their decisions are easily swayed. But the man who lives alone is different. He has dared to face the silence most people run from. He has embraced the solitude society often labels as loneliness, and he has emerged not with a weaker heart, but with a spirit that cannot be broken. Seneca once wrote, "A wise man is content with his lot, whatever it may be." And this man doesn't just believe those words, he lives them. Every single day, in every moment, he does not rage when life is unfair. He does not beg for certainty in a world built on change. He does not crumble when others leave, when plans fall apart, or when the future grows unclear. Why? Because he no longer seeks peace from the world. He brings peace into the world. He is not swayed by fleeting trends. Insults cannot wound him. Praise does not make him arrogant. And criticism does not make him shrink away. He moves like water, fluid when needed, still when required, yet never losing his form. He knows that external circumstances will never be fully within his control. But his mind, his mindset, his responses, and his values, they will always be his to command. And so, whether life places a crown upon his head or a cross upon his back, he stands the same, calm, focused, grounded. He is not obsessed with outcomes, for he is devoted to the process. He does not cling to people, for he is anchored in principle. He does not live for pleasure, but for purpose. And when adversity comes, as it always does, he does not break. Because this man has done what very few ever will. He has conquered himself. This is the ultimate Stoic path, not to extinguish emotion, but to master it, not to avoid connection, but to rise above dependence, not to deny struggle, but to stand taller than it. He becomes the eye of the storm, an unshakable presence in a world built on noise and reaction. A steady flame in an age where most flicker with the wind. And when someone asks, "How can you remain so calm, so disciplined, so untouched by life's storms?" he simply smiles and answers softly, "Because I have already walked through the fiercest fire, the one within me, and I am no longer afraid." And that is the true meaning of living in the Stoic spirit. It is also the man that one becomes when he chooses the path of solitude. Not lesser, not someone left behind, but a man forged in silence, strong, free, and whole. The interesting thing is, it is precisely this aloneness that allows him to form deeper, more meaningful connections. Sounds contradictory, doesn't it? Yet this is one of life's quiet paradoxes. The person most at ease being alone is also the one most capable of building the deepest and strongest bonds. At first glance, society often labels him as detached. They whisper, "He's cold." They assume he's a lone wolf who refuses to love, or worse, someone who cannot be loved. But they're wrong, completely wrong. What they fail to see is that solitude has given him something most people will never touch: absolute clarity about who he is, and who is truly worthy of entering his life. You see, most people build relationships out of fear of being abandoned, fear of being unloved, fear of silence. They leap from one connection to the next, like hurried footsteps over emotional quicksand, hoping someone will make them feel whole. But the man who has mastered solitude is different. He steps into a relationship not from fear, but from fullness. He doesn't need you, and that is precisely why he can love you purely, without attachment, without hidden expectations. Because here's the truth: neediness kills connection, and desperation drives away authenticity. When a person is whole even in solitude, every relationship becomes a choice, not a crutch. He doesn't chase, he doesn't beg, he doesn't try to force something to work when it clearly doesn't. Why? Because he understands that solitude is not a punishment, it is home. And he will return to it in peace if the connection no longer aligns with his values. Seneca once wrote, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." Simple, direct, stoic, and this man lives by it every single day. That simple, direct saying, steeped in Stoic spirit, is his compass. He doesn't chase crowds, doesn't hunt for fame, and never wastes his time on shallow relationships. He doesn't surround himself with people just to avoid facing himself, because he has already found peace within. And once he has that, he seeks only depth. He values silence more than small talk. He chooses shared purpose over shared hobbies. He prioritizes growing together over killing time together. That's why his circle of friends may be small, but it is unshakably strong. His standards in love are higher, not because of arrogance, but because he knows the price of peace, and he will never trade it for chaos dressed as love. Beauty without character doesn't impress him. Attention without genuine intent doesn't interest him. Superficial energy has no place in his life. He has seen what solitude can give him, and if someone can't offer something greater, he will walk away without hesitation. But when he does meet the right person, someone who shares his values, his depth, his calm, that connection becomes magnetic, powerful, because there is no pressure to perform, no fear of abandonment, no manipulation, just two whole individuals, choosing to walk beside each other, not because they need to, but because they want to. That's what makes his relationships rare. No dependency, no masks, just true presence and pure truth. In a world overflowing with shallow attachments, he becomes a lighthouse of depth, integrity, and groundedness. People feel it. They sense that he isn't trying to impress, that he isn't desperate to be accepted, that he is free, and that freedom is where his strength lies. So no, the man who walks alone is not lonely. He simply refuses to settle for less. Because once you have built a life that feels whole without anyone in it, you stop letting just anyone into it. And that is how solitude becomes the gateway to the most meaningful connections a man can ever have. Now you see, the man who moves through life without needing a girlfriend, who chooses quiet over noise, depth over distraction, purpose over approval. He is not broken. He is not lacking. He is not missing out. He is rising above. He has mastered self-reliance, becoming his own provider, his own protector, and his own compass. He embraces solitude not as exile, but as a sanctuary for thought, discipline, and clarity. He has developed emotional control that is unshaken by moods, drama, or chaos. He has found true freedom, financial, intellectual, and spiritual. He nurtures a purpose that burns brighter than the fleeting pleasure of empty connections. He builds deeper, more meaningful relationships because they are born from strength, not from need. Above all, he has become a true Stoic, calm in the storm, anchored in principle, fearless in the face of life's trials. This is not the rejection of love, it is the redefinition of strength. Because until a man can stand fully on his own, in silence, in stillness, in solitude, he will never truly know who he is. And if you've ever felt different for choosing your own path, if you've ever been told you're falling behind, simply because you walk alone, remember this: you are not behind. You are ahead of everyone still running from themselves. The man who walks alone, with clarity in his mind, peace in his heart, and purpose in his soul, that man is not lonely. He is free, and he is the most dangerous kind of man the world will ever know.